All right, I'm going to get us started here. Welcome all. My name is Kelly Walsh. I'm the head of middle school at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall School in Waltham, and excited to host this webinar today and work with my colleagues to share some information about the independent school application process. We'll share a little bit about tuition and financial aid and scholarships and our testing and all the fun pieces to try to make this a less overwhelming situation for those of you who are considering an independent school for your student, maybe starting in middle school or maybe starting earlier or perhaps later. I wanted to just remind everyone this is being recorded. And if you have any questions, feel free to place them in the chat. We will definitely leave time for questions at the end, but we may decide to answer some questions as we go along. We're also going to start with some introductions in alphabetical order of our schools. And so without further ado, I'll let Susie Horn from Bancroft get us started with introductions.
Hi, hello everyone, welcome. So my name is Susie Horn. I work at Bancroft School. We're located in Worcester. We are a pre-K through 12 school, which means at this current moment, there are 4-year-olds and 20-year-olds on the same campus passing one another and saying hello. And everyone shares the same playground. Our whole theme and our mission, we're all about inquiry-based learning here. And being a pre-K through 12 school, a lot of that inquiry-based learning research, the process-oriented teaching really starts at 4 years old and goes all the way up. Each division has their own theme with that, but in the middle school, self-advocacy is our biggest one. We have over 400 students, about 420, so 120 in the lower school, about 90 to 100 in the middle school, and then 210 in the upper school. Yes, and we do have transportation as well.
Great, thank you, Susie. Graham, would you like to introduce us to Belmont Hill?
Yeah, my name is Graham Masiwa. I should probably change my name and put Belmont Hill right there. Too late. I'll do it after I finish speaking. But I'm excited to be talking to everyone here. And so Belmont Hill is all boys. We are 7th through 12th grade. Our biggest entry points are 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade. So we're taking students in those 3 grades. And we'll take some kids in the upper school. We're a big athletic school, so we've got all our teachers here are coaches, so we really thrive on the idea of the teacher-coach model here at Belmont Hill, where our teachers get to know you in the classroom. We get to know you outside the classroom as well. We feel like sports are also a different type of classroom for our boys. And then we really thrive on the idea of working together and, the family style lunch. And one other thing that we like to do at Belmont Hill is that we take a break every day and we have milk and cookies, and we feed our boys chocolate chip cookies every day. So definitely something for families and boys to look forward to. But I'm really excited to be here to just talk to you, everybody, about the admissions process, which can be complicated for families at times.
Thanks, Graham. Shannon.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be here. I'm Shannon Fortin. I am the Associate Director of Admission and Director of Financial Aid at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hall. Woo! We are in Waltham, Mass. We are a boarding and day school, 7th through 12th grade. We're starting our new middle school program next year with an 8th grade and then adding a 7th grade the year after. So currently we're a 9 through 12th grade school, but we're excited about the opening of our new middle school. Currently, we have a little less than 200 students on campus. We are a co-ed school on about a 42-acre campus, 10 miles outside of Boston. I would say the important thing to know about Chapel Hill is that we offer our students a balance of challenge and support. So we are a school that really wants to help our students achieve their best, whether that's on the athletic field, in the classroom, in the dorms, in arts, and learn about themselves as a learner. We offer a lot of ways for you to challenge yourself through advanced academic classes. And then we also offer a strong academic support program through the skills and academic strategies classes that we have.
Great, thank you. Brittany.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brittany Borders, and I am the Assistant Director of Admission here at Newton Country Day School. We are an all-girls single-gender school in Newton, Massachusetts. And I have to say, one of the things that really differentiates us in terms of our program is that we are a member of a national and international network. So Newton Country Day School of the Sacred Heart is connected to 23 other Sacred Heart schools within the United States, and we have Sacred Heart schools in over 40 countries around the world. So we're really able to leverage and take advantage of both our national and international community in ways that benefit our families, our students when they are members of this community, and then beyond that, when they go out into the world, they forge connections that will last them a lifetime. And a Sacred Heart student can always identify another Sacred Heart student out in the world. So we stay connected through that really integral network. I'm really happy to be here with you all today.
Thank you. And Sarah.
Hi, morning. My name is Sarah Wooten. I'm the Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid at Shady Hill School. Shady Hill is in Cambridge. We're sort of nestled in this little community, so a lot of people don't even know that we're here. We were modeled after a quintessential New England village, so it makes it even harder to tell that we're a school because we look like a bunch of little cottages. We're an all gender school, pre-K through 8th grade. And the thing that we are sort of known for is what we call central subject, which is basically all of the humanities pulled together into a study of a certain theme for the year. And kids dive deep into that topic and become sort of experts in that topic through the course of the year. And the other thing that we talk a lot about here from pre-K or beginners, as we call it, all the way through 8th grade is social justice and how kids can be change makers. The other thing that the kids love, if you were to ask them what their favorite thing about Shady Hill is, it's the fact that we have 2 recesses a day all the way through. So every student at the school has those 2 recesses. So I look forward to answering questions, demystifying the admission process. I've gone through it with cousins and myself in all different ways. So I know it can feel complicated, but hopefully we can make it feel a little easier.
Great, thank you. We're going to start off today with, I think, what is perhaps the most daunting piece of this, and that is exploring financial aid and scholarships and what do these tuitions actually mean? And we don't want you to be scared away. The tuition dollars are important to keep all of our schools running, but we also want to be open and welcoming to families of all backgrounds. And to start us off, Susie is going to share a little bit of expertise about the financial aid process.
Hello. Yes. Thank you, Kelly. So all of our schools, we use SSS, which is a separate company and platform that helps go through and process the whole financial aid application. But before I get into that, I want you to know that all of the schools here, a lot of the independent schools, we all want to make it affordable for you and your family. We are here to work with you, and we don't want you to shy away from those conversations. Oftentimes, families wait until the last minute. They want to go through the process, the admissions process, and they're afraid to ask about the financial aid process. 10 years ago, that was a very different mentality. Now it is an open conversation that we want to have with you, because again, we want to make it affordable and as equitable as possible. And again, so we encourage lots of questions, and some of those questions include, do you offer scholarships? How does your process work? Are you need blind? Those are important things. Are the merit scholarships financial aid and need-based? Or do you need to apply for them? All of these are important questions to ask when you're going through the financial aid process at a school. Every school is different, and we are happy to walk you through that as well. And so the other thing is for you to know is that every school has different needs each year. So I work at a pre-K through 12 school. I have different needs in every single grade every year that I have to balance. And when you apply, we look at, okay, how much does this family need and what grade are they in? What is, how can we help this family, but also balance the needs of the school, and make it an affordable process for you and as comfortable of a process. We are dealing with two of the most important things in your life, which are your children and your money. And we take that very seriously. And I can say that on behalf of all of the schools, it's really important. The process can be a little overwhelming. All of us are equipped, and SSS does this, with workbooks and resources to hand to you to help you prepare for the process, what you need to collect. Every school asks for different things, but for the most part, we're really looking for 1040s, W-2s. When you start the application, the platform that we use, SSS, it is pretty user-friendly and intuitive. It guides you through each question. It'll notice when there is an error. So a lot of families, I get the call like, oh my gosh, I don't know, this might be wrong. This, I'm a business owner, these types of things. It's okay. Because the system is actually very developed at this point, and it can recognize when there are errors and it alerts us to things. So it doesn't have to be perfect. And if we see discrepancies or things that we're not sure about, we'll always contact you. And so those workbooks are really helpful. And again, we encourage you to reach out to the financial aid person at the school to ask questions. Another thing you can do is, if you're on the cusp and you say, we have these things going on, we don't know if we'll qualify. That's a common call that we get. That is another thing. Pick up the phone. We would love to chat with you about your situation. And my biggest advice, always apply, because you never know. Always apply, and even if you're afraid to. One of the last questions that you do want to ask the school that you're applying to, and if you're applying for financial aid, is how are decisions made? Every school has a different way of making decisions. So some schools, your student is accepted, and that's an admissions decision. And then you also get a separate financial aid decision. Either you get financial aid or you get put on a financial aid waitlist. Other schools, and these are non-need blind schools, they make an admissions decision, then it goes to financial aid, they make a financial aid decision. If they cannot meet the need of that family, they will send a waitlist letter. It depends. They might tell you it's financial related, might tell you it's academic related, either one. I would encourage you to always ask how decisions are made. These are questions that we are happy to answer and happy to be as transparent as possible through the process. So again, biggest advice, always apply for financial aid and always be honest. Again, I know it's a scary process, but we're always here to help and make it more affordable for you and your family.
Thank you, Susie. I saw a lot of us nodding our heads as you were sharing pieces. Does anyone else want to share any other tidbits from their school or recommendations?
It's okay. I'll just jump in with one thing. So having gone to an independent school myself, my mom went through the process of applying for financial aid for years. And then now helping families go through that process too. I think one of the things that, you said this, but if you have any doubt that you would be able to afford an independent school, you should just simply apply. The worst case scenario is that you're right and you are just outside of the range of what we support as schools. But for most families, they find that they do qualify for financial aid. So you should never let that be a barrier for applying. We specifically have financial aid so that we can have a range of families in our schools. And most of us are trying to expand the socioeconomic economic diversity within our institutions. So we want families who would receive financial aid to apply to our schools. So don't let that be a barrier. And as you mentioned, like, ask questions, don't be afraid. There's no question that is too small. We're always all happy to help.
Thank you, Sarah. Oh, Brittany, I think you got muted.
I muted myself by accident. I beg your pardon. I would also say that if you are a family that has applied for financial aid and received a decision, but have questions about that decision, or maybe perhaps need a little more support, never hesitate to call the person in charge of financial aid. We, as Sarah said, are hoping to diversify our socioeconomic backgrounds of all of our students and families that are represented in the school. So if you think this is a place I want to be, I feel like my child would thrive there, always take that extra step to ask additional questions, because odds are we'll be able to figure out what you need.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Brittany just said, I think a lot, the conversation of money can be really tricky, right? And can be very uncomfortable. But we have these conversations with families all the time. I actually had a conversation with a family that got into a separate school and they got a different amount of financial aid. And, you know, they came to us and they're like, we want to go here, but, you know, this school gave us this amount of money. We always ask you to share that letter with us, and we will try to match that financial aid if we can in terms of our resources. So let's say you've gotten into 2-3 different schools, and the top school that you want to go to has given you less money. Don't be afraid to go and ask. I think this family needed a little push from me because they felt like they'd already appealed once, needed to appeal again for a second time. It's normal, and I think families need to know that from the jump.
Yeah,
And
just transparency all around is the best. We want to talk to you all throughout the process. So always just pick up the phone and call.
There's also one thing to add is all of our schools, we don't want you to have to make the decision based off money. So if you're applying to 5 schools and you get 5 different award packages, again, it's good to keep the schools that you're most interested in the loop, because again, we all want you to make the best decision for your child from a fit perspective. We don't want it to come down to money, which is, you know, to piggyback on what Graham said, you know, we will ask you what you got at the other school. I know that's another uncomfortable thing. You sometimes feel like you're breaking a barrier or doing something unethical, but we all work together. You know, we have a consortium of financial aid officers throughout the whole area, and we talk about the best ways to get to that place where we're all kind of offering about the same amount, especially when it comes to need-based aid. So I just want to piggyback on that as well.
Great.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that I'll say is that a lot of families will decide on whether they should apply for financial aid or not, because maybe it might affect their decision, right? When in doubt, I just say do whatever makes sense for your family. We do not, I think all the officers in there can say this, we will read applications without knowing if a family is applying for aid or not. We kind of need blind, right, in a way. And we make decisions, and then we might look at, sometimes it might come down to money, but in the most part, it's really looking if the kid and the family is a fit for our school. Sorry, Sarah, I think I jumped in when you're about to talk.
No, you're good. That was perfect. I think the last 2 things I would want to add are, you know, my school is pre-K through 8th grade, and I know some schools go through 12th grade. And just from a parent perspective, as you think about finances, it can be really important to think about this as a 10 or 14 year or anything in between their journey in terms of your finances. So just being, you know, thinking about that and knowing that you are investing in your child, this is a form of investment. And so it is going to cost something, but ultimately all of our schools are wonderful schools, and what kids take away is just invaluable. The other piece that oftentimes can come up as students are in school, like once you've chosen a school to attend, if you attend an independent school, are sort of the extras, as some people call them. And every school will have a different approach to what those extras might be. So for example, maybe your child is going to play sports at the school, and getting the extra supplies for, sports equipment might feel like a financial barrier. That's another time when you should be sure to reach out to the school, ask questions. If you're wondering that on the front end, that's also a wonderful question to ask. What things in addition to the tuition are covered by financial aid? And every school is going to be different because they offer different programs. So that will look different everywhere, but that's a good thing to know because those costs can also add up or become worrisome as time goes on. But we've all been there. And I think it's safe to say that we all have different ways of supporting families with those pieces as well.
Great, thank you. So let's move on now to the more general application process, which everyone has to go through the application process. There are a few what we would refer to as common applications, online platforms that allow a family to set up an account and apply to several schools. There are still, tweaks within that and different individual questions. And then some schools still have their own admissions application process. So Sarah, can you talk just a little bit? I think you're the one who doesn't use one of the big programs, and then we'll talk a little bit about Ravenna and SSAT.org.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're sort of in between everyone. We have our own individual application, and we actually work with every year at the end of the year, there are usually meetings with admission directors in the area as we think about how can we make life easier for families applying to schools. As you'll hear in a moment, there are some schools who use a sort of common app, as people might think of the college application process similarly. And we have our own individual application. The nice thing for us and for a number of schools now is that the questions are so similar to the common application questions that you could just do a Word document and copy and paste. But what I always tell people is make sure you change the name of the school. But basically there are, like us, other schools who have their own individual application. So rather than going into one system and sort of checking which schools will receive the application, we have our own that you would need to log into and complete the application process. It's still sort of standard where it tells you the steps that you need to go through in order to complete it. As I mentioned, the questions that are asked in the application are probably similar to everyone else's. And then same thing with the materials that are requested. Most people will ask for recommendations. Some schools will have test scores, a parent application, and then other pieces like maybe an interview or a visit as part of that process as well. So I would just say, as you're looking into each school, make sure that you do pay attention to whether that school has an individual application or is one that has a common app. Because you might get caught up the day that you're receiving a decision. If you log into Ravenna to get your Shady Hill admission decision, it won't be there. So that is a place where just, keeping those emails about how to log in is the most important thing, but it is all very straightforward. I think most everybody's application is online, including our individual one, and we are happy to accept materials from other application systems, like from teachers, to make life a little bit easier, but it is on its own portal.
Great, thank you. So one of the systems that is used is SSAT.org, and both Bancroft and Chapel Hill use that. Shannon, I don't know if you want to share just a few tidbits about that, and then Susie can chime in as well.
Sure. Yes. So SSAT hosts the standard application online, or we just call it the SAO. So lots of letters all scrambled up there together, but basically that's what we refer to as the common app. So that just makes it really easy for families to apply if you're going to apply to more than one school. It's one of the ways that you can cut down on the time, but I think the idea of the Word document is brilliant too. So the SAO is hosted on the SSAT, which is also where you would go if you were going to do independent school research or register to take the SSAT. If you're looking at upper school, applying to upper school. A lot of schools, some schools ask you to take that as part of their admissions process. But basically, you just create an account and make a login, and you can work on the application piece by piece, little by little. It helps you track what you've submitted. You're able to request transcripts and teacher recommendations right through the portal, which makes it a lot easier when you're asking for your current students, teachers to submit pieces in support of your application. And then all of us, I think, have different portals that we use internally, but the SAO works with those directly. So those applications are sent right to us, and usually it's a seamless process for us to receive them. But I would just say in general about any of these application pieces, if you get confused, if you're worried that the schools aren't receiving things, if you're at a school where it's hard to get the teachers to upload things or send things, just call and ask the admissions office. We're really able to be flexible with how we're receiving pieces for the application, and we're happy to, like everyone has said, just communication is the key. So if there is anything, parts of this that you're confused by, we're really able to be pretty flexible. But the SAO is a really great way to do your applications because you can send it to a lot of different schools. I don't know if Susie wants to fill in anything that I forgot.
No, that was perfect. Great job.
Thanks.
I will add that some of the schools do have supplemental pieces as well, that, that might be particular to that school. Sometimes that is a piece that gets forgotten or, but again, we want it to, again, be as easy for you as possible, and don't hesitate to reach out to us about any of that. I will say a lot of the schools, I know, and some families have the issue with recommendations. We have some of our own in the back burner if, technically with the tech, it gets a little mixed up, but again, communication is key. I will say SAO, that is not where you receive a decision, but this is an introductory webinar, so I don't want to get too into the weeds there.
Thank you, Susie and Shannon. So NCDS and Belmont Hill both use a program called Ravenna, and I think it's fairly straightforward. But Brittany or Graham, if you wanted to add any points about what makes Ravenna different or the same.
I would offer that Ravenna is very similar to the SAO. There are a few minor differences, but we're all kind of working on standardized forms. Like the SAO, what makes Ravenna great is that you can apply to multiple schools with the click of a button using materials that you've already uploaded. So teachers don't have to do 1,000 recommendations. You don't have to do a lot of additional work in terms of making sure that the application is spread to the schools that you want it spread to. What's also great about Ravenna, I think, for the way many of the schools use it, is that you can sign up for family events. So if we're having parent events, student events, things like that, all of that can be done through the Ravenna platform. So once you have a login for Ravenna, you go to the school, they will have a calendar of events, and you can sign up automatically, again, click of a button. So it makes those processes, or those parts of the process, much more streamlined, in my opinion.
Thank you. Graham, anything to add on Ravenna? Okay. I will say, as someone who used to write recommendations for students applying to other schools, yes, teachers can get bogged down by a lot of things, but the systems are fairly straightforward for the teachers. And, if the teachers are hesitating, it's also okay to tell a teacher to just email an admissions office or contact an admissions office if they're confused. But really, it's fairly straightforward, and I think it's very doable for teachers if they're willing. But we also understand there are some public school districts we know who do not allow teachers to write recommendations, and so that's all part of the process, and we work with that and just go with the flow there. But if teachers are holding up the process for you, a little nudge should be all they need to keep going. All right, so applications. We also mentioned that I think all of us also include interviews and tours as part of our process, but often the first step is an open house. And that's important. Brittany was just talking about signing up for events. Many of our schools will have spring open houses. We certainly all have fall open houses. And so that's a great place to get started. And we did have a question come through in the chat, which I think is a good one to tie into this open house and sort of getting the process started. And the question is, how does each school address student needs for accommodations and or different learning styles? And how do you suggest to find the best fit? It's a big question. So again, open house is going to be where you want to start. And many of us right now also have, thanks to COVID, have online, we have some virtual opportunities or videos that we may have posted from previous years. But in terms of finding the best fit and understanding accommodations and learning style differences and what can be supported, there's a range. So why don't we each take a moment to share what our school does in terms of helping families with right fit and accommodations. So let's go alphabetical again, just to make it easy. So Susie, you want to start off?
Yes. So being a pre-K through 12 school, we obviously have a wide range of students, and students change over time. We in various ways, starting in pre-K, and so we actually have a signature program called the Hope Graham program, which is a program for students with language-based learning differences. It is in grades 2 through 8, and one of the requirements for it is that you have a neuropsych evaluation, and it is for students with a range of levels of dyslexia or learning differences, but it's mostly for students with language-based learning differences. And that program also is, a lot of our families, they apply to Carroll School as well. We are not a primarily grades 2nd through 8th, primarily school for language-based learning differences. So we have a cap on the number of students we have in each grade for that program. When we get into upper school, we have 3 tiers of academic support. And again, this is a conversation, another one that we know is uncomfortable, and we are always willing to have it. We have, a wide range of learners. And again, every school is different in terms of their support, and it's important to know what levels of support each school has. And that is ours.
Thanks. Graham, how about Belmont Hill? And
yeah, I think you, Susie, captured it well. You captured it well, Kelly. I think, for families, go to the school's website. There's a lot of information there. A lot of schools' websites have a lot of information on whether it's the right school for your child. Info sessions with the schools, open houses, and just having conversations with people in your networks. I think it's another place to do that. So doing the research early and looking at different schools. I'm not a fan of the word fit. I'm more like a fan of the word match. If you're a match it's not only about the child, it's about the whole family when we're looking at students. So I'll pass the baton here.
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Yeah, so I don't want to repeat what everyone says, but so I think like others have mentioned, the important thing is just to learn as much as you can about each school, because we all have our own, we all are great at what we do. We all have wonderful teachers. We all have dedicated faculty and really strong programs. And so you just want to try to learn as much as you can. Like everyone has said, from visiting the school, from asking questions, and from knowing what you're looking for. A lot of times I think families are trying to find a school that you want to find the school that's right for you, not try to just be accepted into a school, right? So you want to, we're lucky to be in an area where there's so many different options, but that also makes it kind of overwhelming. So yeah, going to open houses, learning about, asking questions of the faculty, of the current families. At Chapel Hill, we have, like I said, a wide range of learners with different strengths and weaknesses. And so we can offer a range of accommodations for our students based on what they need. We do have a program called Skills and Academic Strategies, which is available to all of our students. And that's something that whether students are going to be part of that program really starts in the admissions process. So just being as transparent as you can be when you first form relationships with people in the admissions office. We do want to know as much as we can about you, because we want to have all the information, and you should try to get all the information from us about what we can reasonably offer, because we want your students to find success in whatever school they choose. So we do like to compile as much information as possible, neuropsych testing, any other educational testing that they have had, to know if we can support them. And we are able to support a lot of different learning profiles at Chapel Hill. So just being as transparent and giving us all the information right from the beginning is really helpful and important. And then we'll be able to find the best match for you.
Yeah, I'm going to jump right on.
Yes, go for it.
Shannon and Graham, you kind of both stole my talking points, but I'm glad that we're kind of on the same page with this. We love to have that information right up front at Newton Country Day School. You know, there's even space for you to provide that information in our parent short answer questions. But to kind of get back to Graham's point about fit, I am also a person who does not love that word. I prefer the word match. And I think it's really important for you parents to remember that though we are on one side of this process, interviewing you, asking you questions, it's also your job and your right to interview us, because you need to be secure in the fact that you are sending your child someplace where they will be seen and where they will have the opportunity to grow and thrive in their learning. And so to that end, ask as many pressing questions as possible when it comes to that sort of thing, to figuring out if there's IEP support or neuropsych support, because you need to make sure that your child is going to be in a place where they won't feel marginalized, but supported and allowed to blossom and grow in a really organic way.
Thank you, Brittany. Sarah, anything to add here?
Yeah, I think I'll just add from a sort of a different angle. You know, sometimes I feel like parents, because you are often leading the process because you have little ones, can really love a school and then find it hard if that is not the best match for your child. And so what I, the last couple of years have really been encouraging parents to do is really think about what your students' needs are and what type of environment will help them thrive. So for example, at Shady Hill, we are very project-based, and we do a lot of sort of backwards model learning. And for some kids, they really need a much more linear process as they learn. And that has nothing to do with any deficits of the child. It's just that that's not our model, and some kids need that, right? And so that would be where knowing your child is so important, because if that is what they need, then we are likely not going to be a school where they're going to find as much success and gain as much confidence and thrive as a school that matches them better and their learning profile. So I think in some ways it's not even necessarily about having an IEP or having a learning difference, although those are things that obviously pop up and that we have a learning resources group to support. We have certain things that we can support and certain things that we can't. But I think from just a even higher level thinking about it, really try to understand what your child needs to learn best, and then the program that provides that, because that is going to be the most important thing. And that's what our open houses and everything are for you to get answers to those questions.
Great, thank you. The other thing I'll say, these recently it's been harder to seek these out, but there are also school admission fairs where you can talk to lots of different schools in one evening at one school. Those are typically happening in the fall, and COVID put a little damper on those for a few years, but I think that's another place where you can start if you're feeling like, oh, I can't go to 10 open houses and sort this out. You can also look for school fairs. Just wanted to touch on one more point about testing. We did mention neuropsych testing and educational testing, and some schools also require the standardized testing, whether it's the SSAT or the ISEE, sometimes known as ERG, ERBs. We're not a testing school here at Chapel Hill-Chauncy Hill. We are test optional for standardized testing, but we like to get as much information as possible. And so it's really important for you to understand that there's no stigma around educational testing or neuropsych testing. It's really very helpful to all of the schools in the process. And often we say to families, Sarah mentioned IEPs. IEPs might list a whole bunch of accommodations, and we look at the top of the list and we go, we do that for every child because of who we are as a school, whether it's, an advisor connection or it's, they mentioned preferential seating. Well, when you're only in a class of 10 students, that's pretty easy to accommodate. So those questions are important to ask as you're going through the process. And again, more information, the better. We want to know who you are and who your child is and how we can best support them. Just checking on questions. I think we've covered most everything that we've seen. Any points here that any of my colleagues would like to make sure that everyone knows, anything we've missed?
Yeah, I'll just say, a lot of schools have gone, some schools have gone test optional. At Belmont Hill, we still require testing, but I also want to let parents know that it's only one piece of the whole application process. So there's no need to stress your kids in terms of, tutoring and all that. I mean, we will look at the testing, but it's not going to either make us decide whether a kid qualifies to go to Belmont Hill or not. And I think if that was the only measure, I think I would not want to choose that school for my child. So just know that for the schools that are looking at testing, we're just trying to get as much information as we can as we sort of try to make some difficult decisions and finding the right students for our schools.
Thanks, Graham. That's a good point. All right. Well, thank you to all of my colleagues here. When you registered for the webinar, we did ask if you'd like to hear more from the schools. And so we will be sharing, if you said yes, your name will be shared with all of these schools here today. And if it's the right fit, you will hear from them. And feel free to reach out to any of us with questions about the process, or if you're interested in our schools. But I will add one final point here. We do work collectively. As much as we compete with one another, we are also working all together for the same mission of helping as many students as we can. And so, there are tough decisions and tough conversations where we might say your child is not a good fit for our school, but chances are we're going to offer you some other options and say, hey, you're not a good fit for us, but I think you should call my colleague over at such and such a school. And we do talk with each other and help each other out through this process. And we look forward to welcoming many of you to our campuses, and please spread the word about our schools. And again, thank you to all of our panelists, and we will call it a day right there. Again, thank you very much.